Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Stanton and I'll be your instructor for Chemistry 211A this semester. I hope you've had a great summer and you're excited about the fall semester. I just wanted to say welcome to the course and introduce myself, and hopefully that alleviates some of that anxiety associated with just starting a new semester. I also wanted to provide you some information about the course and go through our syllabus, so that way you have some time to think about what questions you have and we can talk about them on the first day, or you can email me ahead of time with any questions you have. But again, welcome to the course and I look forward to meeting you soon. Here's our syllabus, and the first page has a little bit more information about the course. We have our lecture and lab room. It is a double section, so some of us will have our lab component on Monday and Wednesday right after lecture, and the other class has their lab on Tuesday, Thursday. So I'll leave this to you to read, but why are we learning organic chemistry? I'm sure you've heard a few things about organic chemistry, so hopefully on the first day we can talk about that a little bit more as well. But I'll leave that to you to read. And also a little bit more about myself and why I love what I do, why I love teaching. On the side you have my email, so this is the best way to reach me. I usually respond pretty quickly. You can call my office phone, but I'm usually moving around, so email is the best way. I have my website that has a lot of resources, including some video resources, but those will also be posted on Canvas. I highly recommend joining our Remind group. So this is a way for you to send text messages to me or to our class. You can ask questions. None of your contact information will be given out, so you don't have to worry about that. But it's a really easy way for me to respond to you quickly, so you're more than welcome to do that before the semester starts. And you can either sign up online or you can text to that number to sign up for our class. I have my office hours here. I really like to call them drop-in hours. I want to remind you that this is your time. You can come in, you can ask whatever you like, you can come in groups, we can work through problems together, but make sure you're utilizing that time. Even if it seems like a question about the smallest concept, I want you to get that question answered, so come to office hours. On the next page we have some information about learning outcomes, course description. I'll leave that for you to read on your own. More importantly, for what we need now is materials for the course. So you have what you need for lecture, what you need for lab. We are going to be using Connect as our online homework resource, so you have the link to our class here. I have here listed a framework molecular model set, but you can use other brands if you already have something, or you want to borrow one from a friend. Don't feel like you have to get that particular molecular model set. Any set will do, any organic set. We won't be doing a lot of calculations, but in the beginning we will do a few. So you do need a non-programmable scientific calculator. So not one of the fancy TI-83, 84 calculators, just an inexpensive basic calculator. You won't be allowed to use the programmable ones on exams. All right. Sign up for a TED-Ed account. So if you watch this, you've already done that. We will have a few lessons here and there throughout the semester that are going to be flipped. And this is where you're going to be watching a video lecture at home and answering some follow-up questions. And then you'll come into class and we'll have a lot more time to work through problems together. Here's more information about what you'll need for lab. So we have a separate textbook for all of the experiments, same lab notebook that you're probably familiar with. For the safety goggles, make sure they are the ones that have the full side shields. I know they're big and uncomfortable and they leave circles around your eyes, but it's evidence that you've been working hard in lab, and they are going to protect your eyes. Nothing is getting in there, so make sure you get those particular ones. We are going to be working with chemicals that are more harsh than a lot of the chemicals you've worked with in general chemistry, so you need to bring your own nitrile gloves. I will leave it up to you whether or not you use a lab coat, but that's up to you. That's great, but optional is Making the Connections by Padillas. I will post a few things from certain chapters of that book, but if you want to buy the book just to have it, I think it's a really good resource for lab. On the next page, you have more information about my grading. We are going to be doing some startup assignments where really it's getting you in the habit of looking at the chapter before I lecture on it. I want you to see the material multiple times, and that's going to really help us make some connections. So for the startup assignments, you're going to look at the chapter. You may not have time to look at or read through the entire chapter, but at least some of it. And you have some guided questions to get you thinking about the material. Some of the questions may be challenging, but it's really to push you to really start making some of those connections at home. And it gives us a lot more freedom in class to work through problems. Homework, again, is going to be an online resource, Connect. So you can take a look at that, and if you have questions, you can ask me about it. We are going to have 3 exams, and one of them will be dropped, so your lowest exam will be dropped. One thing to note is that our first exam is going to be divided into 2 parts. So you have a part 1 and a part 2, and I combined the scores. But it's an opportunity for you to get an idea of how I test before it counts as a whole exam score. Something to keep in mind is that your laboratory score and your average exam score, both of those must be at least 60% to pass the course. So you can see the point breakdown here and where the cutoffs are for the different grades. So for study tips or tips for success, the biggest thing is attend office hours. Make sure you're taking that time to ask questions. Again, you can come in by yourself, you can come in as a group, we can work through problems together, but make sure you're utilizing that time. I'll leave this to you to read. Something else I want to point out is that we have free tutoring. So once that schedule is available, I'll post that, but it's free, so utilize that time as well. We have our lecture schedule, so we have what chapter we're going over that day, the topic, and also what's due. So you see our startup assignments. It's a reminder of when online homework is due. It tells you what chapters you're being tested on, so you can look at that. We have some important dates here, so make note of those. And we also have our lab schedule. So you also have the chapter, so this will be in the textbook that's specifically for lab, what we're working on that day. So whether we're doing we usually do a lecture, similar to what you did in general chemistry if you took it here at Fullerton College, where we lecture on it on one day and then run the experiment on the second day of that week. We also have what's due for that on that particular day. So in blue you have the lab report, which will be actually written in your lab notebook, but we also have some writing activities. So we are going to be learning how to write individual parts of a scientific paper, and at the end putting those together. I know many of you, if you haven't already, will be doing some research at some point, so this will be really useful to learn how scientific writing works. Okay, so the second page is just the Tuesday-Thursday schedule. So previous page is for the Monday-Wednesday lab section, and then we have the Tuesday-Thursday lab section. Right? Here you have a point breakdown for your experiments in lab, so your lab reports. This will also include your writing exercise if that particular experiment has a writing exercise, and you'll also be graded on some of your products or unknowns, the purity of them. We'll talk about this more on the first day of lab, but safety is so important, so it's a good idea to go ahead and start reading through these, and then we'll talk about more specifics when we get into lab. So here's more information about what you'll be putting into your laboratory notebook. We have some information that needs to go in there before you come into lab for that experiment. So the first 7 steps, the title, the date, the reaction equation, if that's applicable for that experiment, side reactions, purpose, physical properties, so you'll record this table in your laboratory notebook, and also the procedure written in paragraph form. All of that needs to be done before you come into lab. We'll talk about this more in lab in more detail. And then the rest of the information you'll be filling out either during lab or after lab. So we have a results section, mechanisms if we're performing an actual chemical reaction, and some references. You have some tips here for what needs to be done before lab, just some reminders, what you need to do on the day of lab, what you need to turn in, during lab, at the end of lab, and after lab. So it's a good checklist to make sure you're doing what you need. On the last page of our syllabus, I have some resources here. So we have so many resources available to you on campus. So you can look at these, but if there's something that you need and you don't see it here, you're more than welcome to ask, and I can hopefully point you in the right direction. Before we move on, let's take a look at Canvas and Connect. So let's look at Canvas first. Canvas, and even though it has this CRN number at the top, this is for both sections, and there's really only a few tabs we need. So you have a reminder of my office hours. We have a Files tab. All right, so we have exams, handouts, labs, etc. This is where you'll find your startup assignments that you're going to complete before we lecture on that topic. And we have handouts already there if you want to take a look at those. The other important tab is going to be modules. So it's going to be arranged by chapter. We'll also have a lab module, so I'll continue to fill in that information and you can take a look at that. And then we also have a link to Connect, so you can log in directly from Canvas. Let's look at Connect. Log into Connect using your access code. This is what it looks like, and you have all of your assignments already available to you, so if you want to get a jump start, you can already start looking at these, especially the first 2 chapters. First chapter mainly is going to be some review from general chemistry, so that's a good way to go ahead and start on the material. Back to our syllabus, the last thing I wanted to point out is our classroom learning environment. So you can read this, but one thing that I want to point out is my cell phone policy. You're more than welcome to have your cell phone out because I do realize that some of us need to have access to our phones. If you have kids or you may be expecting a phone call, that's perfectly fine. If you need to take a call, you can step out. But if I see you actively on your phone searching something that's not chemistry related, I will ask you to leave. And it's just because I want you to have respect for the people around you. Everyone's time is valuable, so I want your full focus to be in class. I want you to be present. At the bottom of the page, this is something you can read on your own, something we're going to learn about this semester, and something to just look forward to. If you have any questions at all that come up, you're more than welcome to email me, or you can send me a text via Remind. I look forward to meeting you soon.